Hey, Lou, I know we keep talking about it, but I've been so happy with my UniFi setup. I've got everything going, got my new Wi-Fi 7 APs hung. It's such a good system.
Gotta say, I agree with you. Hey, you left everything set up for auto updates, right?
You bet. No CV of the week for me.
I would feel bad for anybody who isn't doing it.
It's Friday, June 26th, and this is the IT SPARC Cast CVE of the week, where we pick a common vulnerability and exposure entry that you need to know about and how to mitigate ASAP. And hopefully, this one's already been mitigated for you. Lou, you want to bring us up to speed?
Absolutely. Apparently, some folks don't have auto update turned on because a warning went out. So let me tell you what happened. CISA warns of actively exploited Ubiquiti UniFi OS flaws. Now, obviously, folks have been following us for a minute. We are very big fans of Ubiquiti. Absolutely fantastic management system. Great price for really good software. But even they can have a challenge. Now, what's interesting about this one is the vulnerabilities, which are CVE 2026 34908, 34909, and 34910. So 3 vulnerabilities in sequence were patched in May. So when John brought this to our attention, I kind of looked at it. I'm like, well, why is this news? Well, apparently it is somewhere being exploited. And so if you have set up a Ubiquiti system in a default configuration, it will automatically update. Now, I went back in and checked my system just to make sure, hey, what's up here? I'm pretty good about it, but I don't think about it because I've got it turned on. Yes, I'm up to date. Everything's cool. But this warning comes based on security researchers at Bishop Fox. And they demonstrated that these 3 bugs chained together achieve full remote compromise with elevated privileges. So they also released a free detection script. We'll send you a link. There'll be a link to that in the show notes to help administrators identify vulnerable UniFi OS deployments. But apparently this is enough of a problem that under the Binding Operations Directive, BOD 2604, U.S. federal agencies have 3 days to apply patches or mitigations. What? Are you not auto-patching these things? So I know that inside of IT folks, a lot of process says you must test the patch, you must test the patch. Can't patch without testing, right? These patches dropped in May. Apparently, there are still a bunch of unpatched systems. Based on our personal experience with this system, you have to go in and tell it not to patch. By default, it wants to patch. So CISA has not disclosed the details of the attacks. We just know there are attacks. There are threat actors involved, and it has not confirmed any ransomware activity tied to the vulnerabilities, but it obviously somebody got breached by this, or this wouldn't have been a directive. Now, at the same time this security was released, by the way, there's also a vulnerability against the Lantronix Ethernet terminal server, serial terminal server. So take a look at that as well. And that one was part of sort of the same batch, but this one is really, really weird. A lot of the embedded stuff, yeah, you got to go in and update it. But by default, Ubiquiti has a very good policy, and you can tell it when you want it to check and when you want it to update. Folks, do not sleep on this. John, what is your take on this? We both have a lot of time on these systems.
Yeah, so I think there's 2 things of real note here. And one of them is the chaining. And we've talked about this before, but I think it's time that I'm just going to repeat ourselves again until maybe it happens. We need a new way of assessing severity of CVEs and as part of a chain. And so maybe it's a CVSS that is for a system versus a specific CV. Because in this case, I don't even know what the CVSS scores are. I'll put them up if you're on YouTube, I'll put them up on the screen so you can see them during the edit. But together, they're a 10, right? So whatever they were individually, maybe each individual one is only a 7 or an 8. Who knows what it might be? But you can get 3 7s chained together, and then you are owned, and it's a 10. So I think we need to really be thinking about that, and the higher ups, the powers that be, need to be considering a new scoring systems. I think we're underselling the severity of issues out there. The other thing is exactly what you said, is enable auto patching and as much as possible. And while I understand the pushback, the reality is, and we've said this before, the mean time to have a AI generated exploit to a CVE, to a critical CVE, is 41 minutes.
Yep.
And that number is going to go down.
Oh, yeah, if it hasn't already.
If it hasn't already. So you know what? That's a good point. I got that number a month ago. I need to go look it up and see if it is maybe even less at this point. But you can't be waiting for weeks or months, in this case, evidently, to patch. You got to be doing it on the continuous patching if you can, but at least overnight, get it to patch. And I understand when you're with your network, it's tough. But I'll tell you what, I've been on, especially the Ubiquity, it's pretty robust, and it does patches with minor outages. And I'm in the habit, just because it's an old habit of mine, if I reboot my APs every once in a while, and I just, wait a minute, I reboot one, wait a minute, and reboot another one. And I never notice it because another AP picks up whatever somebody's connected to. And so nobody ever notices the problem. I think that we need to be looking at that. And I think the vendors need to be considering ways to patch that are less impactful, so that we can, do live patching and basically bring up a clone, patch it, and then, patch the main system, and then be able to stay in sync. And I know that was a trend for chassis-based switches, 10, 15, 20 years ago, but it's kind of gone out of favor. I think we need to get back to that.
Yeah, I've got to say, given the modern tools we have using containers or hot patching under Linux, this stuff all runs Linux, folks. It's all Linux. So it's like there's no excuse anymore to not be able to serially reinitialize the state of whatever you're touching. You might have an outage for 5 seconds where you're not forwarding packets, or 5 seconds where a user can't log into the UI, whatever. But there is simply no more modern excuses for this. The technology exists. Whether you're going to swap a container, whether you're going to hot patch the kernel, it's out there. It's being done in the cloud today. And now I know several network vendors are looking at this, but nobody, we're starting to see it creep up, but everybody's talking about it under the rubric of, well, I want to put applications on my spare CPU. But what they're not doing is saying, I want to keep critical infrastructure quickly patched and very highly available. You need to go beat on your vendor about that. Straight up.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, that is going to cover this episode. We couldn't do this podcast without listeners like you, and we would love to hear what you think. Do you have another topic you want us to cover? Do you think that we're wrong about automatic patching and that you really need to test before you patch? I would love to hear from you and be able to debate with you on that. Send email to feedback@itsparkcast.com. Hit us up on X @ITSparkcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below. We read every single comment, every bit of feedback we get. We respond to most, and if it's particularly interesting or insightful, we will read it out on the broadcast. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. That way you will never miss a single episode. We will be back next week with more insights from the world of enterprise IT and security. Until then, take care.
Stay safe and turn on auto patch, okay?